today to communicate to you certain things I think that can help our relationship together. Do you know, our problem could just be listening. The way we listen causes a lot of problems to us. The way we listen to certain information, we cannot relate. The teachers, the management, and the parents cannot relate and build synergy or interpersonal relationship if they don't understand what I'm going to communicate today. Listening could just be our problems. Now, what is listening? It's different from hearing. Hearing is the vibration of sound waves in your eardrum. As I'm speaking, you can hear the sound, but it is incumbent on you to make meaning of what you hear. So, making meaning of what you hear, paying attention to what you hear, and making meaning about what you hear, that is what they call listening. It's different from hearing. You can hear, but you don't understand what you hear. So when you understand what you hear, that is what they call what? Listening. And there are types of listening. We have appreciative listening, where you listen to music, to comedy, to stories that makes you feel happy. It is called appreciative listening. We have empathic listening, where you listen to someone carefully and put yourself in a situation and see how that person feels, so that you can deliver emotional support to that person. You are listening empathically. That is empathic listening. We also have comprehensive listening. When you listen to understand what I'm teaching, that is called comprehensive listening. You want to understand. Then we have critical listening. When you listen in order to evaluate what I'm teaching, whether it is correct or not correct, whether you could accept it or reject it. So you are listening critically. So there are two things you need to listen to as I'm teaching. You listen to what is called evidence and listen to what is called reasoning. Evidence and reasoning are gotten from a word called logos. Aristotle in philosophy called it logos. Logos means emotional appeal. No, logical appeal is called logos. And there are two words that build logos. It is called evidence and reasoning. And what is evidence? Example, the drunkard comes in, staggering with his bottle of wine, and now turn his gin in his cup rather, and take one and drop on that cup. The gin will kill the one. That is evidence. Then he will now make a statement. Those that drink alcohol cannot have one on their tummy that are dangerous. That is reasoning. So reasoning is statement that is based on evidence. Reasoning is a statement someone made that is based on what? Evidence. Why evidence is a material that is used to prove or to disprove something. A material, which is the bottle of gin and the worm, and the gin kills the worm. That is evidence. That is a material to prove and disprove that one can still drink alcohol. Exactly. So reasoning is a statement or a conclusion predicated on evidence. Why evidence is a material that is used to prove or disprove something. And there is what you must also look at. There are certain things you must also consider when you listen to information. It is called fallacy. Fallacy is an error in your thinking or reasoning. A problem that you have in your mind as a human being is called fallacy. The way you process information. Do you know if someone tells you something about me, the way the person presents the information can get you to start becoming very reactive. If another person comes again and presents the same information, you may be still. Isn't it? So, it depends on how the information is being presented to you. So, your decision you make today depends on what you see, how it is being presented to you. Exactly. So that same decision you are taking today, when presented to you in a different way, you will take a different decision. So before you take decision, you must think first, is the information properly presented to me? Else you make decision that you will regret tomorrow in your life. Exactly. So before we take decision, we must think carefully before we take and ask ourselves, is the information presented correctly? Should I call the school and take my children out from their school because of what your child tells you. You have not confirmed yet. There is no evidence in what your child says. Even when there is evidence, it could still be false. Because if you carry out a practical and got certain results, that does not mean that the result is correct. Because there are certain factors that can also give you that result. A psychologist says something, that he has gotten a solution of making those people that are suffering from depression to get ill. And they ask him, what is the solution? He says you want to engage them in canoeing, in mountaineering, in swimming, in physical exercise for 1 year, they will get healed. After 1 year, he reports that 93% of his patients are sound now and they are free from depression. Would that be correct for you to accept that because they engage in physical exercise, that is why their depression leave them? No, it is not true. There will be other factors that make them get ill, not physical exercise. What about time? There are some people that may be suffering depression that you will not give any treatment, but when you leave them for 1 year, 2 years, the depression on its own will disappear. So it could be time that made those people to get healing, not physical exercise. And yet, if it is time, would that be correct? No, it is not also correct because there are other factors. What about the expectation of those patients? Do you know if I use a fake drop or water to rub on your skin and tell you that when you rub this water all the time in your broken leg, you will get ill after 1 month? Because you are expecting that you can get ill. Healing will take place even when I know that water cannot cure your leg. Expectation that you have can also metamorphose healing. Do you know that? That's why they say that when you are in the house of the Lord, let your expectation be high. Not that certain message can heal you, because you expect it will release certain hormone in your body to metamorphose and also cause healing inside you. Expectation is very key. What about now? If the subject are expecting that they will get healed from depression, expectation can also be wrong. What about the experimental expectation? The person carrying out the experiment also has his expectation. He wants to see that healing will take place, even when the people don't expect. Example, there is a clever horse. There's a horse in Germany called Clever Hans. H-A-N-S. Clever is his name. Horse, you know horse, animal. It's called Clever Hans, and Clever Hans can carry out arithmetic, times, multiplication, division. When you tell the horse 2 times 2, he will have his level 4. People get surprised, got surprised. How can a horse carry out arithmetic? All the psychologists and philosophers now sat down to monitor this horse. 7 divided by this, he will tap, got his answer. There's one man called P-Funks, P-F-U-N-G-S. Now monitor this horse carefully and look at the people asking the horse question and look at how they tilt their head and open their nose. Now say, okay, they are giving the horse subtle clues. So when you ask 2 times 2, you are expecting the horse to tell you 4. So when the horse look at your face and tap, by the time you get to 4, your head will come up again. So you will stop. Which means, since you are indirectly giving the horse a clue where to tap and stop, not that the horse understood arithmetic. Indirectly, don't know that you are giving him clues. So when certain things come out to be real, they might not be that real. So you must hold certain information tentatively, because you may see changes that will baffle you. So we go into fallacy, which is an error in your thinking. And there are kinds of fallacy you must take note of. The first one is called fallacy of false thoughts. Fallacy of false thoughts, whereby you try to attribute, you are trying to build relationship between causes and effects. Example, you see a poor man in the street and you have concluded, you see, now all these men, the people wey be no take life serious the way dem dey young. That is wrong. You see a teacher they don't get money. You know say some of those teachers have a lot of property and they live in their houses, but they choose to appear simple. You have concluded, and you think that people you see in the street the way they appear, that is who they are. That's an appearance bias. When you look at someone carefully through his appearance, you have concluded that this person is a rational person. Example, they even use it in our movie industry, whereby uncompleted building is where criminals stay in our Nigerian movie industry. That is where they rape women in uncompleted building. But people that live in good building will go to heaven, and even if they die, their bones will not get rotted. You see, you look at where people live to classify them. Those that live in backup building, all of them will go to hellfire. Those that live in good building, then they will go to heaven. So when someone comes to your company, I want to get employed, can please help me and put on the truth step. I say that I cannot employ this person, it's not dressing properly. so he must be a thief. Then someone that dresses very well, carry his bag, face up, you say this is the right person, not knowing that that is a thief. You understand me? So you cannot use appearance to classify people until you gather much information about that person. Take note, it's very key. So the next one is called fundamental attribution error. Fundamental attribution error. Take note of this, it's very important. It is a mental problem in all of us seated down here, where if something happens to you, you will want people to make excuses for you that you are suffering this problem based on situation beyond your control. That is why you are in this condition. But when it happens to someone, you say that that is how the person behaves, that is why that thing is happening to him. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? You come late to work as a boss, you say that it's because of hold up. When the staff come to work late, you say he has bad character to work, bad attitude to work. You cannot make excuses. That is a problem in your reasoning called fundamental attribution error. You attribute people's action to their character, but yours to condition beyond your control. Try to manage all these vices. We also have what we call Dunning-Kruger's effect. Dunning-Kruger's effect is a mental condition where you have deceived yourself because you have a limited knowledge about a concept. You now deceive yourself that you have known all the concepts. Example, I can solve quadratic equation. That is why I'm a mathematician. No, you can only solve one topic. There are so many topics you cannot solve. Do you understand me? So you know something little, you believe you have known it all. Then your problem is you are suffering from Dunning-Kruger's effect. Then we have what we call the ostrich effect. Ostrich effect is a mental situation where you don't want to learn anything new that will contradict what has been taught to you. You will say, hey, don't tell me this, don't tell me. This is what my teacher taught me. This is what my pastor taught me. This is what my father taught me. No. When I was young, this is what they taught me. So what they taught you yesterday, time has passed. You cannot apply most of those things today because we have our different incidentals. Incidentals are things you can use to carry out certain instruction or command. So the time in the time of the old, there are certain things people use to carry out information or command. Today we have different incidentals, things we can make use of. Example, Noah was asked to build ark using gopher wood, and Noah built the ark, and that person that don't use any other wood apart from gopher wood. But Noah was not told whether to use nails or to use hammer. He was the one that made use of his sense. Let me use hammer and nails to build the ark. So nail and ark is called incidentals, things that you can use your senses and choose to use them to carry out an instruction that is not commanded. So we have our different incidentals. Don't that because your parents taught you this thing yesterday, today it is still applicable. Because when you maintain that kind of mentality, it will be causing a lot of problems. Remember, as parents, today when I look at parents, I feel like crying. Because I know during our time and during your time, when we get home and tell our parents that we were beaten in school by who a teacher, they will beat us more. Because we have gone to school to disgrace the family name. But today, when a child comes back home and tells you, Mr. Robert flogged me, you say that man is very stupid. He believes he knows all. In front of your child. And you see how foolish you are. Sorry to say. A parent that does that is foolish. Because if you say I am foolish in front of your child, you are more foolish for giving me your child, allowing your child to be under my tutelage. Do you understand? How can a foolish man be training your child? You see, when a child gives you any information, either a teacher touched me on my bum, don't conclude. Go and carry out your findings. Because that could be wrong. We have a case that was about 3 days ago when we told students to WAEC. And a child was caught that has mental issue, having his phone. And they asked the child, who gave you this phone? He said, Mr. Promise. Who's Mr. Promise? And Mr. Promise was in the hospital. 2 days ago, we drip. Mr. Promise gave you Expo on phone. Mr. Promise, Mr. Promise. And Mr. Promise was not there. And we told the supervisor, this guy asked challenges. He said no. When this guy now saw Mr. Monday, he said, this is the Mr. Promise. Mr. Monday now told me, Mr. Promise, do you know me? The child now look at Mr. Monday, they are going to another lady. You see, that man has concluded that this is the Mr. Promise and has created a lot of problems before he later understood that that was not the Mr. Promise. It happened to us too. So we must be careful when we listen and how we process information. So the slippery slope, we have what we call subjective report. Hello? We have what we call what?
Subjective report.
And also objective report. As a parent, you must not build on subjective report. What does it mean? Subjective report is a report that you give, that you were the only one that has evidence about that report. Example, if I tell you I am thirsty and you give me water to drink, that does not mean that I'm really thirsty. Do you know that? If I tell you, please, Mama, I'm very hungry, please, I want to eat, and you give me food to eat, as I am eating the food hurriedly, it is not, my hurriedness in eating that food is not an evidence that I am hungry. Do you know that? Because you cannot ascertain whether I am really hungry. It could just be mere deception. I don't know that someone understand what I'm trying to say. So I am the only one to tell whether I am hungry or not. So my hurriedness in eating that food is not a testament that I am hungry. It is called subjective report. So objective report is what you can see and what I can see and confirm that yes, this thing exists. So parents, build more on objective report, what you can see and what the child can see and what the teacher can see. Not only what the child tells you about the teacher, because you don't know whether your child is lying. It is subjective. Do you understand me? Yes. So when a child passes an information to you, you are not in the school. That information is what?
Subjective.
So what will you do? You need to dig deep to gather information, to gather evidence and reasoning. Then you can now make it objective. From that objective report, then you can now build certain statement to approach the school. Else you just mess yourself up. I hope you are following. I think I have said much on this. Status quo bias finally is a mental condition where you just like how things are. You don't want to improve. You see change as a loss, not as gain. When they say, the school say, we want to implement something new, you say, no. We are not used to that, please. Let us remain like this. See, this school must change. We have been here for 8 years, and we don't like the way we are. We want a good change. The teachers here are very strong. The teachers here are very strong. We don't sleep. We read morning, afternoon, evening. On Sunday when you come here, I'm there reading, writing. At home, my house has become a library. You cannot see television. Everywhere is books because of your child, because of your children. So, if you don't support us, we cannot grow more than this. That's why we want to come in with PTF to see I can also help to become a support system. We want a good environment, a conducive environment for your children. That is why we want to look at what is called organizational statement. Now, what is organizational statement? Because we are trying